It is a politically fraught time. Some commentators here comparing this moment to George Bush's handling of Hurricane Katrina in the US. On the fires themselves, of course, which have had such a devastating effect not only on property, farmland, but also on animal life, particularly native Australian animals like koalas, kangaroos, the bird life. There are fires burning currently in Perth. We understand that there have been evacuations, hundreds of firefighters working to control a fire that's threatening the southeastern suburbs of Perth. Here in New South Wales, more than 50 fires are still out of control, and we know that the fire danger has gone up to severe and extreme today on account of rising temperatures. All of this puts Scott Morrison under continuing pressure. There have been some fairly clumsy efforts by some of his ministers to de-link this from climate change. He's now announced a national inquiry, but all the time there are increasing calls for White Australia finally to listen to the traditional owners here and to learn more about Aboriginal land management techniques to avoid the disasters of the future.
There is still active fire in that area. Monitor the conditions and know what you will do if the fire threatens.
In the smoky aftermath of the worst start to fire season anyone can remember, while some search for solutions, others want someone to blame. It's a politically potent moment in Australian towns and cities as the Labor opposition demands now is the time to talk about climate change, and the government of Scott Morrison demurs. He has his reasons. His government relies on support from Australia's powerful fossil fuel industries, something I asked him about earlier in bushfire season.
Given the efforts that other nations are making to reduce their carbon emissions, how can Australia justify opening new coal mines?
Because we've got the best mining industry in the world that understands how to do this job properly and to do it sensitively and to care for the environment, because they're in a country which has a serious plan to address climate change. Australia's doing its bit, but Australia's not going to write a blank cheque with its own economy on this issue, which requires action from right around the globe.
It exploded. My whole property exploded.
If not climate change, how to explain the ferocity and scale of the fires that have burnt out more than 10 million hectares across 4 states, an area the size of South Korea? First, the tabloid conspiracy that's taken off like wildfire, that it's all the work of arsonists, even activist arsonists. The only problem with that, there's always been arson in Australia. There have never been fires like these. Then there's the argument that environmentalists have become so powerful in protecting forests, they've stopped firefighters setting the strategic fires needed to reduce the fuel load and undergrowth. But even the firefighters don't accept that.
Yes, burning is important, but some of the hysteria that this will be the problem that solves, or the solution to all our problems, is really just quite an emotional load of rubbish, to be honest.
Sitting on the banks of the Bega River, this is Jirringunj country, and generations for tens of thousands of years of Jirringunj people would have met here, fished here, taken water from here, and it's now a silted up sandbed, and it's very representative of the drought that is crippling Australia and that has caused these fires, directly linked to climate change and mismanagement of the land and water.
After the fires, the search for solutions is leading many towards the kind of traditional land management practiced by Indigenous Australians. Cultural burning, it's called. A complex approach reliant on fire and a micro-level understanding of the local environment.
I think it's really tragic that it took people losing their lives and the worst fires we've ever seen for people to understand that that's what's required.
Martin Hodgson says it won't work if this is just an opportunistic reaction motivated only by fear. It'll take genuine engagement and empowerment of a community long marginalised by white Australia.
There's a rich wealth of knowledge in every Aboriginal community around the country that goes beyond just what we're talking about in terms of traditional burning. And those answers are there, that knowledge is there, and it's ready to be rolled out. But you have to respect First Nations, you have to speak to elders and be willing to listen to what they have to say.
This fire season has already transformed the landscape. Is it hot enough to transform the politics as well?